Velkommen til Karriereklubben, en podcast, der hjælper dig med dine personlige udfordringer i karrieren. Mit navn er Rossmeisl, og jeg er dagens vært. And now, welcome to the panel here. Welcome to the three of you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, so today in this episode, we will talk about how it is to be an international in Denmark and navigate the Danish job environment and job market. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation because we're receiving so many dilemmas around this from internationals in Denmark. So really looking forward to it. Before we go into the dilemmas, I think we should start with you presenting yourself to our audience. And maybe we can start with you, Alexandra.
Absolutely. I'm Alexandra Ciobotaru, Romanian, moved to Denmark 8 years ago. I work currently for AP Moller Maersk in the CVC called Rycroft. That's corporate venture capital. I have a background in business, and I moved to Denmark actually for my master's at CBS, Copenhagen Business School. I had a lot of experiences in startups and scale-ups before I joined the corporate. So I've had quite a different spectrum, I'd say, of experiences in Denmark so far. And outside of my professional job, I actually have a female empowerment community called FemmeLead that started from a podcast. And now we host events for networking and for career development here in the country.
Super cool. And you said it was your dream job now at Rycroft you have found.
I did say that, yeah. I think that moving to Denmark, I came to study innovation and entrepreneurship. And at the time, people were asking me, why do you study entrepreneurship? And I was like, it's the coolest thing to discuss and debate how other people have built companies and then have the chance at school to build a startup without all, the fear of failure and so on. So I actually had that as a great starting point for my career. And then I actually moved into working for startups. And I was one of the first employees in many of those companies, and I scaled them. So in terms of, exposure to that environment, I learned so much from school. And now my job is to help other startups benefit from the partnership that they can have with a business as big as Maersk. So in my role at Rycroft, I am an ecosystem engagement partnership manager. And what does it mean?
Long title.
Yeah, very long.
What does it mean is that every large company would benefit from innovation endeavors with small agile companies, and we know that. So actually when I got hired, the company was looking for someone that did not have a background in the company, in Maersk, I mean. And they said, okay, someone who's from the startup ecosystem, someone who's very good at networking, someone who understands business models and how startups are being built and how we can support them to integrate in a large ecosystem. And I was reading that job ad and I was like, oh my God, this is me.
That's me.
This is me. I should get this job. Right. And and now I'm here.
So happy to have you here. And we can continue with you, Tegan.
Yeah, so my name is Tegan Spinner. I came to Denmark about 8 years ago as well. I actually haven't gotten a job yet in Denmark. I've been making the jobs most of the time. So I've also been in the startup community.
That's also an achievement, I think.
for a long time. I did have a short role as it was still a C-level position at a company here, but then I've been doing my own businesses for about the past 6 years in Denmark now. Currently, I'm the founder of a company called Worthmore, where we are trying to redefine what a mobile phone subscription can be. Changing it into a sort of glue that connects the community based off more than just their 5G. We support causes around the world by taking a portion of each person's mobile phone subscription with us and putting it into a pool of money and supporting these different impact causes around the world. So it's really cool. So far, we've donated pads to young girls in Uganda who couldn't afford them. Paid for dental surgeries for kids in Peru. Did a food waste project here in Copenhagen where we saved, they're saving over 2,000 kilos of food per week.
So focus on sustainability in many different ways.
Sustainability, social impact, all these different kind of things. Basically just by switching your SIM card, you get all the same data, text, minutes, 150 krona per month, like basically unlimited plan. But instead of us spending money on billboards and TV ads and this kind of thing, we take that same amount of money and do good things with it and try to build our community in that way instead. Cool. Also been a part of helping a lot of businesses move here through the Startup Denmark visa. So sort of the face of the Startup Denmark visa. Really good at helping people understand how to pitch their concept to the government to get the yes on the application.
So if you're listening to this podcast now and you're an international in Denmark, can you reach out, or if you have someone that wants to come to Denmark?
Yeah, definitely. If you can help Startup Denmark Visa, it's probably my name that pops up first. So, I've been doing that for quite some time, and I really enjoy helping these new companies move here. If it's from outside the EU. And then, it's not easy landing in a country where you maybe don't know the language, don't have a network, don't have a ton of money a lot of times, these people, and then navigate that whole journey. So definitely relevant for, I think, some of the people listening. And I love helping, so feel free to reach out.
Amazing, Tegan. And Chris, you're the last one in our panel. Can you also just briefly present yourself to the audience?
Yeah, I probably took the more classic route. I actually was sent here 28 years ago as the managing director of a company. My boss at the time, the European managing director, said, we've got this opportunity going up in Denmark. Do you fancy it? And at that time, we'd never really studied Danish geography. And I thought, that's great. I could ski every weekend. And totally naive. Anyway, so
you knew nothing about Denmark.
I came up to Denmark.
Copenhagen, that's the only place you can do some skiing.
That was the irony. There wasn't any mountains at all, but I discovered that afterwards. I was here for 3 years, fell madly in love, still madly in love with the same lady. So got married, went off to Thailand for 6 years, came back. And wife's family, father died, so we decided to end up in Denmark. And Denmark is a very educational-centric place. So you really need to make sure you have the right qualifications. And I didn't. I mean, I had a really senior job, but I just wasn't able to get back into the organizations. So I hustled my way into convincing a telco, actually, Three, the telephone company, that I could run a call center. I'd never been in one in my life, but I convinced them that I had.
Love it.
And then that lasted about a year and a half. New CEO came in, left. And then I thought, what shall I do with my life? I couldn't get back into the job that I wanted to. And then I joined a consultancy. And 18 years ago, that's when my life took off. So I've never looked back since and done a lot of work with a lot of young people. I'm treating myself as the older one now. A lot of work with CBS, some of the students there.
Yeah.
So I have a big network and I like to try and use that to help people along in the process.
But you built it all up by yourself in Denmark.
Yeah. Very much hustle.
Hustle.
So it's always refreshing to meet a lot of younger people who are all in this kind of startup mode where there's like zero disbelief of not able to achieve something. Yeah, we'll give it a go. I mean, it's really quite inspiring to be with.
Just keep driving into the wall until the wall moves. It's like, it moves every time. It's like Harry Potter,
Yeah, you're through it.
It's like floof. It's like, I'm on the other side.
Okay, I love that analogy, actually. That's amazing. Okay, so today we're talking about being an international in Denmark, and I would like, before we go to our 3 dilemmas that we're going through on this episode, I would like to just ask you, what are, and there is probably a lot, so let's try to make it brief. What would you say are the specific challenges, in Denmark coming in as an international? Because I know for all different countries, there is an obstacle, right? Because it's a new language, it's a new culture. But are there some specific things around Denmark that makes it difficult as an international? Yeah, Tegan.
Yeah, so I could maybe start here with just one of the things that I personally, can bring to the table from my experience. A lot of it was the visas and the sort of administration and paperwork and this kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you're coming from outside into Denmark, I've heard a lot of crazy stories, especially within entrepreneurship. So I think really being able to be on top of some of that stuff. The fact that it all comes to you in Danish doesn't really help either. So it's like, here's your Startup Denmark visa. We know you're from a different country. We know you don't understand Danish. Here's your tax paperwork in Danish. It's just like, thank you for that. So I think...
feel very welcome.
Yeah, the language, but also a lot of the, I think also a lot of the opportunities are offered in Danish. So you don't even know that there's things that exist like InnoBooster and InnoFounder things until much later, unless somebody points you to it. So these are two of my things.
Yeah.
I think also, maybe it's a bit scathing, but I found that Danes aren't natural networkers.
Yeah.
They live in kind of quite a closed groups.
Traps.
Right? So often when I'm helping people, they say, you're more helpful than a Danish friend of mine, right? Yeah. You're connecting me up with more people with absolutely zero kind of minimum filter. Just okay, yeah, talk to Alexandra, maybe it's something for you. Let's work it out from there. Yeah. So I can see that's when I'm working with a lot of people, that's what naturally doesn't come to Danes. They're not very good connectors.
And maybe that's also due to the fact that people live very close. So it's like the friends you had in high school. That's at least something I have heard from my international friends. It seems like everyone knows each other. Yeah. And they really do sometimes.
Yes. Yeah.
What do you think, Alexandra?
I think there's something there about the way that we network and how we see professional development. Sometimes, being here for 8 years now, I've seen a couple of opportunities in a way, like both of you mentioned, either I don't get to them, either they're already, shared through network. And thinking about that, I was like, but how do I get to build that network where I can also tap into the potential that I have together with the peers that believe in me? And something that was really, I would say, a shock, but something that really managed to do well was building a strong network, regardless of where you're from and how you navigate in life. There will be people who see your potential no matter where you are, and they will be like, I want to invest in you. But sometimes you need to go and tell them, hey, this has been very difficult for me. Can you help me? You need to ask for help. And I think that maybe in Denmark, we're not so good at saying, hey, this is actually very difficult for me as an expat. I do not have your network. I do not have your family here. I do not have your group of friends the same way that you build them. Can you guide me a little bit on how to navigate this? And of course, the international community also proved to be a good place to start. But ideally, of course, we all live in the same country and we all share the same values. So something to consider. Yeah.
Okay, I think this is a very great start. I think we also have some dilemmas around this about networking. So let's continue the conversation when we get to that dilemma. But are you ready for the first dilemma?
Bring it on.
Yeah. Okay, it goes like this. Dear Karriereklubben, I'm 20 years old and I work as an economist. I moved to Denmark from Brazil 3 years ago. I've built a good career here, but I often feel lonely and isolated because my family and close friends are so far away. Although I have good colleagues, I don't feel like I have a strong personal network here in Denmark. I miss the close contact and support I had back home. Do you have any advice on how I can build a stronger social network and also find a sense of belonging in this new country? Best, Isabella. And it's important to say that we have anonymized these names. So just because people wanted to be anonymous. So just so you know. Absolutely. Yeah. So that's just actually what we just started the conversation around, building a network. Yeah. Where would you start, Tegan?
I did start, actually. I think one of the things that I did that was maybe a little bit crazy, and it's not comfortable for everybody to do in the beginning, but I just created events around things that I was passionate about. And then put it on Facebook. And for the first one, sometimes one person would show up, but sometimes you'd have 50 people show up.
That's so bold of you.
Yeah, so I went to Facebook and then I was like, I remember one time I was looking for a roommate and I couldn't find the right thing. So I posted on a Facebook thing, I'm going to sit in Islandsbrygge with 24 beers. If you're also looking for a roommate, come join me. And then there was 20 people who showed up and I was like, cool, there's this. Or I hosted poker nights, I like to play poker. So I would just, hey, there's a poker night in a couple weeks if anybody wants to show up. And then, and through that you start to meet people who share your passion. So that's an easy, free kind of way. And if you don't want to create the event, there's all these ones where you can actually can go to them as well. But I think when you create the event and you're sort of the host, you actually get a bit more of that bonding energy, if you will. So you're not just anymore a guest showing up. You're actually everybody there is there because of you. And I think when that starts to happen, then you start to be the person that's now I have I want to be friends with that person and connect. So yeah, it's helpful.
Yeah. I think it's quite clear that you actually have to do a lot more work yourself.
Yeah.
It's not going to come to you, right? And again, where people live in such a kind of secular society, they're not naturally inviting you to events or home.
Okay, so you cannot sit and wait for it.
No, definitely not. So in Brazil, where you might easily be invited to a barbecue, a very social kind of community race, that doesn't really happen here. And all the time you're expecting it to happen, you get more and more frustrated and get more angry and bitter. And you just got to accept that there's just how the culture is. It's just not a naturally inviting. I mean, they're very pleasant, but not a naturally inviting. Come home to my house, have dinner with me, and it's. I mean, I have some friends, and very close friends, right? And they started doing some dancing, right? And they started meeting up with some dance friends, right? And they suggested, and these are people we've known for 25 years, they said, yeah, why don't we invite a night where you can meet the dance people too? I mean, I was like, yeah, bring it on. All my kind of local Danes, you can't really do that. I mean, we don't really know them. So it's kind of quite strange. So back to their question, I mean, you really got to take it yourself.
And that's the same with the professional network. It's not something that will just come.
Doesn't. No,
exactly.
You really got to work hard at it.
But I will say, in that same regard, then when you do create the event yourself, actually people are so surprised by it that they do actually show up. And yes. I've found that it's like my birthday party, and it's like there's no group bigger than 3 people who know each other, and there's like maybe 50 people in the room. It's like none of these people are friends with each other, but they're all here. And I think, that like if you create something that people can come to, there will be people who show up. So.
Yeah. And when it comes to, attending events or creating events and kind of mixing groups of friends, I think something to consider is that whatever you're doing, you're not starting from the same level. So if you compare your chapter 1 with someone else's chapter 10, that, they have a whole network here, maybe they, go to school with some of their friends, you will always feel like something is missing.
Yes.
So it's very important not to compare experiences. And this is something that I had to learn myself, because I didn't know that. I moved here without knowing anything about the culture. I moved for school, and I was so happy I got in that I was like, I just bought a ticket, and I even skipped the social week, the beginning of school, because no one told me that's kind of mandatory. I was like, why didn't anyone tell me the first week is kind of like the social one?
Yeah.
So everyone then asked me, where were you? I'm like, I was home. I was waiting to come here when school starts, right? So all of these different, cultural differences that we didn't know. And then coming here, I was surprised that it took me so long to make friends. And I think it really got to me in the first year. And my decision has been that I need to find people that I can relate with. I know that it would be fantastic to have friends from Denmark, from all over the world here in Copenhagen, but the reality is that I had a lot of friends from my same cultural background, with the same values, also from different groups of hobbies, for example. And what really helped me is that I was not afraid of rejection. So in the beginning, I had different groups of friends. I was going to all these random events. I met Tegan at a couple of them, right?
That's why we know each other from way back. I'm pretty sure you were one of the ones who showed up at my random events.
Exactly. I was one of the ones that showed up at his events.
Free drink.
Yeah.
And then at some point, I also did, similar to Tegan, I started doing events related to career development, because that was something that I was looking for. And I couldn't see myself in the current setup in Denmark with many role models, right? So I was like, I'll do a podcast where I invite all the cool people I know and I like online to talk about their career. And then at some point, someone from Denmark said, but can we all meet in person? Because I know 3 of my other friends listen to the podcast. Maybe we can do a meetup. And then I was like, oh my God, I can do networking events here in Copenhagen for people who listen to a podcast about career development in English.
So it's kind of the same as Tegan, actually, but now you also made your own events.
Exactly, and it stems from the fact that people that were listening or people that were seeing, for example, Tegan's events, they had the same kind of desire to meet. They were like, and that's the thing. You're not alone. Yes. There are other people that will have the same thoughts that you have about, this is difficult, or I'm in a new setup. How do I make friends? How do I build up a network? Start there. And in the beginning, you're probably going to meet a lot of people. You're going to be like, okay, this is not going to be my BFF, my new BFF. But then you might find people that even if you don't meet them as often, they will become part of your network. And I mean, Tegan and I don't meet often now, but we have not been knowing each other for like a few years now. And I always count on him for advice. And this is something that, stems from always showing up and kind of not giving up, right?
Add one other thing to add that's a little bit separate track, but that I think is quite important as well. I was thinking about it when you were talking about the dancing, but it's kind of like your personal brand that you put out there as well. I think that a lot of people forget that, like, people kind of think about you and they're like, oh, that's my dance friend, or oh, that's my, like career development friend or whatever. And if you're really trying to build that up, I think from like scratch, a lot of people if you're just posting random stuff online or whatever, I think if you try to think about like, what do you want to be known for?
Find a niche.
Then sometimes people start finding you. Like I'm known for Startup Denmark Visa. I'm known for like entrepreneurship and this kind of thing. And now people start coming in. Yeah. And so maybe like work on developing that a bit, or like thinking about it can really help you like get more people start reaching out to you and want your advice and want to go dancing with you, want to just have fun.
Then you also have a specific reason to why it could be nice to meet up.
Yeah, exactly. So
have a selling point.
I think that helps in the beginning as well. Thinking about what do I want to be known for, and then like making yourself a little bit more visible in that. And it doesn't have to be professional or whatever. It can be, fun, anything. Yeah. You're always at the beach. It's like, okay, when I'm thinking about I want to go to the beach, maybe I should contact this person type of thing. It can be that, right? So it helps.
Yeah. Well, I think we have some really great advices for Isabella. Well, first of all, we know the feeling, or at least the panel does. They have also been in this situation where you feel like you don't know anyone, and how do you get started, and especially with the professional relations, because it's just a different culture in Denmark. Like Chris says, it's just not a culture where you just invite people to your home. It takes time. What Tegan has experienced as a really great way to start some relations is to do his own events. And in the beginning, no one showed up, but eventually he found some niches that were interesting. So poker nights, whatever you think is interesting to do. Also, Alexandra did the same actually, but in a more professional context. So experienced career development and wanted to make some events about that as well. So that's a way to expand your network. And then just good advice also from Tegan. Find out what you want to be known for. So maybe see if you can find a niche or something around your personal brand that you can use as that hook to why you should meet up with people, because that might also give you some sort of opening to new relations. Good luck with it. We know how you feel, and like Alexandra say, you're not alone in this. There are so many other internationals struggling with the same. So we hope you find a way. Thanks for your dilemma. Well, that was the first one. Are you ready for the next one?
Yeah.
Bring it on.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Hi there. I'm 32 years old and I work as a software developer. I moved to Denmark from India 2 years ago. Although I speak English, I still experience language barriers, especially when my colleagues speak Danish during breaks or informal meetings. It makes me feel left out, and I struggle to build some strong relationships. I've been trying to learn Danish, but it's really challenging, and I don't feel like I'm making enough progress. So how can I overcome these language barriers and feel more integrated both in and outside of work, especially during these coffee breaks? Best regards, Priya. Oh yeah, that coffee maker situation, it's always like that, right? It's at the coffee maker that colleagues switch to Danish for some reason.
I'm very, very clear on this one.
Yeah.
It needs to be brought up.
Yeah.
I think for me, I would say sometimes the lack of awareness was surprising. And I'm not saying this in a bad way. I think it's something to actually educate ourselves on. When a company says or claims they have an English-speaking internal
culture.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. then they need to speak English in meetings. Something different. I mean, I was actually scolded once because I had a Romanian colleague and I just said something like, "What's up?" just as an intro, and someone literally wrote me, "Hey, are we speaking English?" And I was like, "Wow, okay, well, sorry, I didn't mean to, So believe me that if you were in other setups, I think that culturally we are also here in Denmark, I would say a little bit more chill, which is great, to be honest. But at the same time, when you are in a company with many, many different cultures and you don't maybe see that situation happening, you don't know how it is, especially if you've never lived abroad. For me, it's very interesting to experience Denmark also from the lens of traveling, because I know a lot of Danes travel, but not a lot of Danes live abroad. And those two are very different instances.
Yes.
There's one thing to see the world and go to 100 countries. There's another thing to live abroad for a year and know how it is to integrate. It's very difficult and different, right? So maybe people don't know, and someone should tell them, hey, we don't speak another language in meetings if we are internationals here. And I'm very adamant about it because I've been in situations where, I'm in the fortunate position of being able to handle that, but not many people are.
But I mean, in Maersk, aren't there situations where people start, chatting in Danish?
This never happened to me.
Okay.
This
It's very
never
rare
happened to
in
me.
Maersk.
Yeah,
Very rare.
never.
But I think a lot of people just aren't conscious about
Exactly.
it. They just don't
Exactly.
realize that they're doing it.
So you need to, that's why I say it's just something, and if you don't want to bring it up to your colleagues, which is okay, you bring it up to HR. And you don't bring it up as a complaint. You say, I would like to raise the fact that I have been in certain situations where during the official meeting, I did not understand what was going on. And as an employee of the company, part of the meeting, I think I should be brought up to speed in English as our, official company language.
Yeah,
That's
but she mentions breaks in informal meetings. So
Right, yes.
I think there is a difference, right?
Yeah.
Because in the big
Absolutely,
formal meetings, they might talk English, but when it comes to the relationships and if there's two Danish colleagues, exactly, after hours.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult thing to break.
Yeah.
Because if they are just standing by the coffee machine having a chat, it's very difficult to say, could you give that to me in English?
Yeah.
I mean, I still do it, but do it probably more from a provocative point of view.
Please switch over. I
is-
can't understand you.
Sometimes,
But actually, what I
is a
found,
difficult-
so this is two parts to this. I mean, one, I'm kind of creating the company culture, right? So in my situation, it's been very much we're English speaking company because I am, so it's like, so it's a little bit different. But I've been in when I first came here, I was dating a Danish girl, and I was living with all Danish roommates, and I was working, my very first thing was working at a very Danish company where they spoke Danish primarily, and I was supposed to be their marketing guy. So, so this was my first job in Denmark, right? And I think that one of the things that I found is that Danes actually, if you, actually asking in Danish to switch to English is one of the things that I felt was like that kind of set the tone properly for them, like really quickly being like, oh yeah, like sorry, we didn't even think about it. And I think if you just so it's just like undskyld, jeg kan ikke forstå, just like really small things, but in Danish. Then they're like, oh, so like they snap out of it. So I think these little like triggers in Danish, if you learn some of those can really help you to sort of just remind them that you're in the room and you are not connecting or like the way that maybe you want to.
And just to add to that, Tegan, I think if you are in a situation where you can find one ally that is from the group,
actually, yes.
or a colleague, you talk about now coffee breaks. Fantastic example. What do you do? It's not your conversation. So you can, roam around waiting for someone to ask you, what do you think? But if you don't understand what is going on, you're going to be like, what is going on? And I love when people ask me, but you speak Danish, right? You can chip in. And I'm like, well, I didn't really pay attention to the whole thing. It's not as, I would say, easy for you to step into a conversation, even if you want to. It's very important, I think, to find an ally. Someone in the company to tell that this has been going on, and maybe you can offer some support. And
these allies, I just want to say, I think the key part of that is that a lot of times they'll be the one who they'll be speaking in Danish, and then the next sentence that comes out will just be English.
Yes,
and
because they become aware of it.
But they don't even say like, oh yes, we're switching to Danish. They'll just see that person enters the room or the conversation, and they'll switch their language.
Exactly.
So having that one friend, I think, is really.
I think in part two, sometimes if you're able to even ask a couple of questions just in English, then you'll get an automatic response, right? But most people just sort of sit there. I mean, I've done it many times before, just sat at the party, kind of just tuning out. And I'm thinking, here I get
just
paid.
waiting to
I
be
get
asked.
paid to speak. And here I am kind of just shutting up and feeling more and more lonely. And then I think, stuff it. And then I just simply throw a question into the middle of the mix on the table. Okay. And then they all switch. It takes a bit of courage, but I mean, you just need to ask a couple of open questions. And then suddenly you'll find that they switch out of it and then come back to it.
There's also something about that on the social aspect when you become, like Tegan mentioned also earlier, the person that organizes it. So if you want to have a more, I would say, engaged social activity at work with your colleagues, potentially taking the lead and saying, should we do a board game one night? Could help, because then you become the person that...
A boy game or...
Board game.
Board game.
Should we do a board game one day? What are you doing over at Mascot?
There might be some cultural differences there.
Should we do a night where
English,
we
English,
play,
please.
like board
games.
games or something
Yeah.
social, and then you become the person that kind of manages that, as in, you came up with the idea and people will be like, at least 5 colleagues will be like, yeah, that's cool. And then you kind of set the tone of the sort of culture where also when you hang out in breaks or after work, you have this mentality that, or this mindset that, we're from everywhere, so we stick to English if that's something that works for you. And of course, using those opportunities to learn Danish is also a good idea.
But it seems like it's a lot of work. I mean, you have to be proactive in order to... Is that just, something you have
But
to
it is
do?
part of it, yeah.
I think whoever told you it's going to be easy to move to Scandinavia did not tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Or any language, any country.
In
where
any
the
country,
language is,
actually, yeah.
like a different language, like that move already was a lot of hard work, right? So, I
Mm.
mean,
Because
it's part of it.
Also from a cultural perspective, it is a in general, the area is also a more, I would say, private, type of culture. I mean, we don't invite friends home unless we think they're our friends, like we don't invite them in our private,
Unless you're me, and I'm one of the crazy ones.
Unless
That's
meet
one way to
Tegan.
make me friends. Like,
So I think
it's going to be great.
knowing those aspects of the culture will really help you understand if you fit here. Because when I started at CBS, what I've noticed, and this is maybe a cool segue into kind of starting here, we were half-half. 45 Danes, 45 internationals. I don't know what happened with most of the internationals. A lot of them left right after. Of course,
They
didn't plan to stay in Denmark. But we haven't really even kept in touch that much. And I think that's a pity. But also, I didn't keep in touch with many of my Danish colleagues either. I have them in my network, so potentially we could meet here and there. But what I'm trying to say with it is that there was not a setup where we wouldn't have the opportunity to connect. It's just that it's not a given, I think, here that you need to make friends with everybody. And I think maybe this is something that maybe you guys also can chip in. In other cultures, it's easier, or at least more expected, that you'll be friends with everybody in your, school or work, or you'll invite your colleagues for beers and after work drinks every Friday. And that's not really the case.
No. And I think the sooner you get to that realization that is how it is, that's just how the culture is. Because we always think it is cold and rude, but it's not. I mean, it's just how people are. And the moment that we acknowledge that and recognize it and try and do what we need to do to find that path, then life can somehow become a bit easier rather than fighting it all the time. Yeah, why doesn't she do that? Or why doesn't he do this? Yeah. So that's what I've always found to be.
Also in workplaces.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Yeah.
And also on the the other aspect, once you've had this experience and you kind of know how to navigate it, I mean, you also become a person that appreciates more other sort of interactions. For example, I really appreciate when my friends tell me in advance what they're planning to do, so that I can make sure that I'll be there for them. Like the whole planning and kind of socializing aspect now it's become part of also my way of being, that I really admire the way that we kind of are on top of each other's calendars and really try to do things together, and we prioritize it.
Oh yeah, because that's another thing, right? That Danes most often have already full schedules, so it's not like you can
then the week numbers as well.
Yeah,
It's
the
like
week numbers,
week 32.
We I might have an
day
opening
in
for a
the
cup
autumn.
of coffee.
Yeah, I've never looked at it that way. Interesting. Well, Priya, there is a lot of great advices for you here. Well, first of all, we really acknowledge it's a difficult situation standing at a coffee machine, and then you have 2 colleagues talking in Danish and you can't understand a word. But what we say in the panel is that it's important that you have to somehow just accept that you have to be proactive and you have to do something about it. Alexandra also think it could be a good idea to find an ally, so you have someone you can tell these things to and that can help you in the situation where it gets a bit tough to chip into the conversation and you feel left out of the conversation as well. So that would maybe help. At the same time, you also have to think about this is not because anyone want to do anything bad to you. It's simply lack of awareness, and therefore it's important that you keep reminding them of that. It's important that you also understand what's being said how would they feel if another language was spoken, right?
I think your tip about even saying it in Danish,
yes, that was pretty cool.
I mean, I think it's a really, really good idea.
Yeah. So maybe also, Priya, try to learn just one sentence in Danish.
Undskyld, jeg kan ikke forstå. All of a sudden they're like, oh, sorry. That's like
exactly, and they will think, okay, there is a person that really trying to do the effort of learning Danish, but and at the same time you're just leaving them out of the conversation. So that's a tip from here. Thank you so much for your dilemma. Well, time flies. We're already at the last dilemma. Are you ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hit it off. Hi, Karriereklubben. I'm 30 years old and I just moved to Denmark from the US to work as a product manager at a tech company. The job is awesome, but I'm having a hard time with some of the cultural differences at work. In the US, I'm used to a more top-down approach where the boss makes the decisions. Here in Denmark, it seems like everything is more equal, which is great, but decisions are also made by the whole team, and that can be confusing and sometimes frustrating for me. I'm not sure how to share my ideas without seeming too pushy, and I feel like I'm not contributing as much as I could. Any tips on how to get the hang of this more laid-back work culture without losing my voice? Thanks a lot, Michael.
I mean, that's a really great question. I mean,
you're from the US, Chris.
What's that?
Are you from the US?
No, I'm English.
No, you're English. But that's the same, right? Some of the same cultural...
Tapped into something there.
The US,
you're from the US.
Yeah,
okay.
I was beginning to like you up to that point. It's funny, actually, when you come from a fairly hierarchical type of society.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first came to Denmark, my sales director came into my office and he said, your strategy sucks. And I'm thinking, who the hell are you to tell me my strategy sucks? And then he kind of spent the next hour proceeding to tell me why it did suck. And once I kind of got back off my high horse, I actually realized my strategy did suck. But so much anger I had because here was somebody coming to me to tell me that my strategy sucked when technically he was below me. And it took me and my ego quite a bit of time to realize that is just how it is in Denmark. You know, it's a very flat structure where they really value your opinions. So kind of being quiet isn't always the best way to go, but it is finding that place to put the point in the table. Yeah. But if you don't put that point on the table in the middle of a meeting, then they feel, well, why are you here? You're not bringing your value. So everything that's keeping her back is actually the thing that should propel her forward. Because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for her opinion.
So did you have to learn to speak up your mind more openly?
Both ways. I had to learn to speak up and accept when people at that level were telling me what I was doing was wrong. You know, when you're running a company, and when you come from that hierarchy of, you've always meant to be the final word and the best idea. It took me a while to come down and realise that actually it's a far better way of doing it. And that's when sort of Danish works culture, English work culture.
So for Michael, you will actually advise him to be more open to speak up or to, adapt to this cultural difference.
Yeah. They want to hear your opinion.
There's some benefits of being able to tell the leader that they suck, I have to say. And I think that's one of the things. It's part of maybe why you should move here in the first place. I mean, I think this is one of the great parts about this ecosystem and about the job market and everything like that, is that you have this sort of this flatness. I do understand the confusing part of it, how it can be sort of, sometimes, especially if you're in a managing role, as you said, to say okay, am I the final decision? Am I the one, people are looking at me, but they're looking for my intern just is this is seems like they have the exact same say on this situation. And what I would say is that, I think they do and they should. And I think that's actually what pushes the idea forward a bit further. But I do think that being able to then understand very specifically what your sort of job description was at the end of the day, and making that also, you're going to be respected for your opinion. And even though it may not seem like you are, having that final say, you do still have that final say, and it is still there. It's just much more fluid. So yeah, from me, I've been running the company most of the time, right? So it's always been underneath me, right? But also at the same time, it's like I think that has brought the product so much further and my whole idea so much further. So.
But it also seems like it has been something you needed to adapt to, because also as a manager, if you have Danish people beneath you, you also need to understand that that's the culture, that they will chip in with their criticism of your leadership style, or if there's some new ideas coming up or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think it's just realizing that you can also do the same above you. So realizing that, I think that makes it more like, I think that's the adaptability, exactly. Understanding okay, you can say that to me, but I can also say this to them. And that is, maybe not how it works in the, other places, but yes. As you said, finding your voice and making sure that you voice your opinions, I think, is the most important part. So you don't have to be so political, I find, as well in the landscape here. So, and a lot of things in the US, it would be very office politics is like a whole thing. And here, I think it's still, I'm not working in big corporate, but it's still like a thing, but it's a very different, it's not about the work, maybe, or less about it.
But it is interesting because I work with a lot of international leaders, and quite often they say, the Danes, they're so rude. I said, what do you mean they're so rude? Yeah, they're so outspoken. I said, but they're not outspoken. I mean, it's more just how the society is, they're chipping in with the idea that they think is valuable. Right?
And I think also this works just quickly, and also the social settings as well. I remember one of my first times sitting with my girlfriend, and I had just been it was my second or third day there, and it was a dinner with the family. And the mom had said something about the food not being that great. And then my girlfriend was just like, yeah, you're right. It's actually not that great today. And I was just sitting there, I was like, wow. You can't say that. And she's like, why not? It's actually kind of dry, or it's overcooked or something. And I was like, okay, well, so I think that's a kind of a...
Direct.
That direct way of speaking, especially as an American, we're very normally tactful with our communication. And I think you don't have to do that so much in Denmark, regardless if it's a social setting or a business setting. So maybe realizing that you can just speak your mind is actually the way to adapt to the situation.
What about you, Alexandra? You sit in a big corporate, so you might have experienced this shift somehow.
There's something very interesting about my current position, because I get to talk to people from all different, as we call them, job levels or whatever. And I really like the fact that in Denmark, we are expected to say our opinion for the betterment of the situation. So if I tell my opinion, it's because it's probably valuable and I should probably say it. It's not because I need to be right or because I want to prove you wrong. It's because it will contribute to a better situation at the end for the team or for the company. And this is a mentality that I love here in Denmark. It's one of the reasons why I really enjoy my career development here. I always felt empowered to say what I think. It doesn't mean you need to be naive. And I think it's just putting it out there that you need to consider also what you're saying. And also, are you helping the situation by saying what you're saying? Because if you're only becoming the person that always says, no, this is not going to work, without giving some solution, you're going to be like, okay, then thank you for your message. So consider a little bit that. And then outside of this idea of sharing something really because it's valuable and because you think you can contribute, there's also something very powerful when it comes to team cross collaboration. The fact that you can share your opinion and everybody contributes. Then if you are the person that makes the decision, you have the power to say, I have listened to all of your comments, I analyzed the situation, I have taken everything into account, and my decision is that we should try this. You keep everybody informed, but you also are the person that needs to make a decision, and you need to do your job at the end of the day.
Yeah, and that's also like it in the Danish culture, even though everyone is heard.
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, you also need to go to your manager and say, hi, Lars, I'm saying this on purpose because I know it's one of the most popular names in Denmark. It's not anybody specific, okay?
Lars. Yeah, exactly.
I'm saying looking at Lars at mask right now.
I'm saying it on purpose. No, but you can say, we had a great session in the past few weeks on this topic, and the project is going well. This is my decision, or this is our outcome, whatever you wanna, however you wanna put it there. But at the end of the day, you need to deliver that outcome, right? I also come from a culture that is quite hierarchical, and it wasn't seen good to speak to your manager. maybe one of the reasons I left, I don't know. But I think that's also changing with new generations. And I really think that we should be aware of it. Everything that we believe now, it's, top leadership in a certain way, and maybe a little bit old school as well. It's continuously changing. And I have not encountered in Romania, in Denmark, in the US, or whatever I worked with peers, I've never encountered the manager who told me, why are you telling me this? Every time I spoke with the leader, they said, I'm happy you mentioned this because your job is to tell me if you see something. And you need to have this mindset also when you are in Denmark. And that mindset applies to your team members. They think the same. They think you need to know what we think, because otherwise you're going to do something that actually no one believes in.
But what should Michael do in this, situation where he feels it's a bit, confusing to be in such a situation?
The good thing about being part of a company is that you can often ask for help. So I think one of the easiest thing to do is, if he has a manager, to mention that based on his cultural background, and I'm sure that the two of you can give more details here, I am not used to being put on the spot in this way, that we actually need to take everybody's opinion this way into account, or like involve everybody in the conversation. I'm used to making the decision myself. Yeah. And this can be actually in your performance development plan, one of the areas to improve, so that you feel like you are valued and also you're giving your best to the job, but you're also happy with the outcome, right?
So speak up about it, actually.
Absolutely.
So they know why you're not speaking up.
Exactly, absolutely. And then going back to allies, you might find someone that will help you in those meetings to say, Chris, what do you think? And because in the beginning, maybe it's something you just need support with, and that's super fair.
Yeah. That's a good way of doing it.
Yeah, and I think it's also to understand maybe just a little bit that as you were saying and touched on a bit, that these challenges are not personal; they're meant to make the product better. So, and that's also your job, is to make the project, the thing better. So I think it's sometimes can be seen as, oh, I'm getting all this feedback and now I don't know what to do. Yes. I think part of like a career in this culture is about being able to filter feedback and being able to accept it and hear it and understand it, and then also still have the courage to be like, okay, as you said, I've listened to everyone and I've made a decision. Yes. And I think part of your career development here will also be very much around that. Whereas in the US or in other cultures, you might be prided as making the right decision. I think here you're going to be more like celebrated for contribution. For listening to people and being able to do that as a leader. So I think understanding that that's a valued skill set here that will kind of help you rise and maybe develop even further in your career path, is maybe making it something to even work on, becoming better at doing that type of thing, rather than see it as like a negative thing. Be like, okay, this is what's going to help me raise to the top and be valued and get the promotion and whatever, that kind of thing. So
I think that's a really good point to end this conversation with, Michael. So it's important that you think around this culture is different. I mean, and what will leverage you in your career might not be the same as it was in the US. So maybe be aware of that in Denmark, it's more common to be direct, and also that your employees will speak up their mind. And for you as a manager, it will be important that you listen. That's a skill we really value in Denmark. So maybe try to develop that skill set a bit. When that's said, it could also be a great idea for you to speak up around that this might be a bit difficult to maybe your manager that can help you guide you in this in this situation, but at the same time maybe also for them to know that it's not that you don't want to contribute with your ideas, it's just because you're not used to that culture. So that is, it is a difference for you. And I mean, everyone in the panel, including Chris especially, have tried, to be in this situation where it's like difficult to adapt to a whole new cultural setup. So we know how you're feeling, and it will take time, but hopefully you will get there at some point. Thank you so much for your dilemma, Michael, and thanks to you for being such great experts in this field and helping all our internationals with finding their way in the Danish job environment. That's never easy. But thanks for having me anyway. I've really enjoyed sharing some of the thoughts, and good luck on the job searches to everybody listening. Yeah, and maybe if there's someone listening that needs help with the visa, you know where to go. Yeah, definitely. Perfect. Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure, and remember that it's your journey, so make it work for you. Perfect. Thank you so much, and also thanks to you who listened in. Du lyttede til Karriereklubben, en podcast produceret af Andrea Thormand, Karoline Rossmeisl og Nima Tisdal. Du kan altid følge Karriereklubben inde på dine respektive sociale medier. Vi glæder os til at høre fra dig. Tak fordi du lyttede med.